Hey everybody, my name is John Stewart and I'm one of the recovery coaches here on ehab.care. And our producers have asked me to do a short bio introducing myself and telling you a little bit about who I am. I'm 22 years in recovery from a 20-year career addiction. I ultimately ended up being addicted to crack and heroin, although I've done most drugs that were available back then. But it was crack and heroin that brought me to my knees. I was also what some would call a culturally enmeshed addict, so it was very difficult or impossible to separate me in any way from my addiction and my addiction culture. So I created an identity out of it, made a career out of it, made a living out of it. So I'm clean from that. Previously, I've been the senior addictions counselor at Bethesda Addiction Treatment Center, an internationally sought after treatment center here in Plettenberg Bay, South Africa. And more recently, I've been the program manager for Bethesda as well. Then COVID came, and we've had to rethink and repurpose and reinvent who we are and what we're doing and what we're offering. And ehab.care is a part of that. Although ehab.care has been in development for a very long time by Colin Garnett, it's started to gain some serious traction now because of the circumstances we're in. Some interesting facts about me. I was maybe 5+ years away from the last time I used before I ever set foot in NA or AA or started doing 12-step program. So where I was drug free for those years. In hindsight, I can see now that I was a dry drunk more than anything. The only thing that kept me clean really was, no matter how terrible my current situation was, or how much I was suffering in the beginning, or how hard my early recovery was, it was never worse than what was behind me. That's something I never lost sight of. The pain behind me was never greater than the pain I was in or the pain in front of me. And that's pretty much what kept me clean. My recovery, I think, only really started when I came into a 12-step context. When I met Colin Garnett, he became my sponsor and mentor, and I started doing step work and going to groups and working on my character flaws. I think that's when my recovery really started and my character development started to where I am today. But that's an interesting fact, and it goes against some of the popular narratives. Especially within the AA and NA and the disease model dogma. So 15 years or 16 years, 15 years at Bethesda Addiction Treatment Center. I came up through the ranks. Been studying through most of that time. I've got certificates in addiction counseling. I've got a diploma in addiction psychology. I've got a diploma in trauma counseling. I've got certificates in CBT, DBT, motivational interviewing, and a few others. And I'm busy with a few more still. I've got a couple of certificates on the horizon that I want to do. I'm just waiting for opportunity and finances. And I'll continue my studies. I've worked with many men and women with all kinds of addictions in the last 15 years. Seen many of them go on to long and lasting and healthy recoveries. We've seen a few die. A few of them had to relapse a few times. But for the most part, I think most people have made it or in recovery, or at least surviving within whatever context they're in at the moment. My style or my approach to working with people is I'm very pragmatic. I'm not an academic. So I don't have that, what's the word I'm looking for, that impressive, super intelligent dialogue style. I'm very pragmatic. I'll present your addiction to you in a way that you can understand, in a way that you can grasp. I'll help you to see how severe it is and how big it's become, and get you in touch with the consequences on a much deeper level. So I'm very, I say I'm not an academic, but I'm going to use a very academic word now. I'm very didactic, and very pragmatic. So you'll see most of my content that's going to be up on ehab.care is very didactic by nature. It's aimed to articulate whatever the subject is in a way that you can understand it. Very practical. One of my nicknames has been Papa Bear, and sometimes maybe that's not a good thing, but it comes from my empathy with clients and my ability to connect with people and the therapeutic alliances that I build with people. In one of my studies somewhere, I think it was in the certificate, in the diploma for addiction psychology, there was a quote by one of the people where they said, the modality of treatment you use is not nearly as important as the connection you make with your client. And I really hear that, and I really believe that. And that's something I'm very good at doing. I can make very good connections. I'm an outstanding listener. I've got my own life experience. I've survived my own addiction. I come from a traumatic childhood. There's lots of abuse in my past, mental, psychological, sexual. So I've done lots and lots of work on myself. Sitting here today, I'm obsession free. I know what freedom is. I know what peace is. And I'd love to share that with others. I'd like to, an analogy I use is there's always light at the end of the tunnel. It's just not a straight tunnel. There's dips and curves and corners. And what we do as addiction specialists and recovery coaches and addiction counselors, whatever we're going to call ourselves, is us, fellow soldiers, fellow sojourners, fellow pilgrims. We come and meet you in the tunnel. We come and meet you in the tunnel. You can't see the light. All you can see is darkness. All you can see is the pitfall. It's hopeless. It's scary. It's frightening. We know how that feels, man. Been there, done that. We come into the tunnel and we meet you in the tunnel. And we say, hey, it's okay. We know how to get out this tunnel. We know the way. We can't carry you out the tunnel. We can't drag you out the tunnel. We can't push you out the tunnel. We can walk you out the tunnel. We can walk you far enough down the tunnel so that you can start to see the light for yourself. And we can still walk you even further towards the light. And maybe even out of the tunnel to where you can start walking this journey on your own with support and help of a fellowship. So doing this kind of work is very scary. We know that. I know that. I know how scary it was for me. I mean, in 1998, I walked into a homeless shelter in Cape Town called the Ark, which was in the middle of a township. And drugs and alcohol all around me, and gangsters and dealers in abundance. But I walked into the Ark. dying. I was dying, and I knew I was dying. I've been living on the streets for a number of years. The addiction took me from being a wealthy drug dealer to homeless on the streets. I know how daunting it is. I walked into the ark with absolutely no clue or no idea how I was going to do it, how I was going to get away, how I was going to clean up. I had no idea. I just knew I had to do it. I walked into the ark and asked for help. And I was introduced there to a fellow called Pastor Brian, who was the head of the men's section. And Pastor Brian took me in and gave me a bed. And by this time I was starting to go cold turkey. And he nursed me and looked after me through my withdrawals. I went through cold turkey withdrawals from heroin. That's where my journey started. I ended up staying in the ark for 3.5 years because I was terrified of leaving the ark. After being a career addict, a career criminal, from most of my life, looking out at Joe Normal, at Joe Public, and thinking, how am I going to do that? How am I ever going to be like them? Terrified me. So I created a comfort zone for myself in the ark and ended up staying there for 3.5 years off the back of that fear. And for whatever circumstances, I ended up having to leave the ark, moved into a room. I started renting a room in Fishhoek, Cape Town. Joined a church there and started to normalize to a degree. Lots of old behavior still, no 12-step fellowship, no mentorship, no counseling, nothing like that. Dodgy as anything, still. But that's where my journey just started. And it was sometime in that space I met Colin Garnett, who's the founder and creator of ehab.care. I met Colin maybe 20 years ago or so, 18 years, 20 years. And he saw the potential in me, and he came alongside me. And he started to teach me and mentor me and grow me in myself. And I've never looked back. And I, in turn, have come alongside many and shown them and taught them and mentored them. And many of them are out there living their lives, have overcome whatever obstacles they needed to overcome. So I want to do this work for as long as I can. I don't want to do anything else. I will do this in one way or another, in one shape or another, until I can't do it. Whether it's here on ehab.care or if life takes me in a different direction and I end up somewhere else, it will always be doing this kind of work. And it's because I'm so grateful for what recovery has given me, what God has given me. Really, from what I come from what I come out of, to what I have now, which isn't much. I'm a simple fella. I live a simple life. I've got the basics, TV, car, lekker computer, nice place to stay for now. Don't have much. Happy with what I have. Absolutely content with what I have. Love life. Live in Plettenberg Bay. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world, man. If you ever get a chance to come to Plettenberg Bay, you should come. We keep what we have by giving it away. That's one of the spiritual cornerstones of this fellowship, and I absolutely believe that. And I'm going to give it away in one way or another for as long as I can. So that's me in a nutshell, I guess. I've got loads of experience in counseling, in different modalities of counseling. But more than that, I'm a fellow pilgrim. I know what it feels like to want to be scared. I know what it feels like to feel hopeless and daunted. I know how that feels. So, if we connected at any point, I'll meet you where you're at, man. I'll meet you where you're at. No huge expectations. I'm not going to sit and throw answers at you. Let's just talk. Let's just get into a couple of conversations and see where it goes and take it from there. That's me. Thanks, everybody.